Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have another great guest on. Now, it's always a pleasure when I have the chance to talk to other finance and accounting professionals, but what makes this even better is because, as many of the audience know, is I'm a fan of comedians and speakers because I think to be able to tell a compelling message or a compelling story, it's a skill that we all need. And John has mastered both. So, welcome to the show, John.
Hey, thanks so much, Terrell. I'm excited to be here and hang out and see where this goes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, before we jump into, talking about, your business and then also talking about your book, What You're and tell us a little bit about, your background before all of that came into be.
Yeah, sure. So, I grew up, my dad was in the Air Force. So, we grew up moving every 2 or 3 years, mostly Midwest, East Coast. We lived 2 years in the Azores, islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It's a Portuguese protectorate, I guess. So that was sixth and seventh grade. So I got to travel to Europe on vacations and stuff from there. And then went to high school in St. Louis, graduated from the University of Notre Dame, and then went to PwC. And the rest is history, I guess. I don't know. Like
Gotcha.
it's from there actually to today is a lot of like up and down and weird stuff. So like it's just easier to go, and here we are.
Gotcha. Now, when you were going through, I mean, like I said, I understand the military background because my father is retired Army. So when you were
Okay.
going through that journey, was there
Yeah.
ever anything that jumped out and said, "Hey, you should become an accountant," or how did that come about?
No, never ever. It was actually, you should be an engineer. I mean, I knew everything about all the planes since I was very, very young. I knew all the planes, the fighter planes. I knew all Navy planes. I knew them all. And so I definitely wanted to be an engineer. I was really good with Legos. Come to find out, that is not how engineering works. They are not plastic bricks that they make bridges out of. So, I went to Notre Dame and just got completely demolished. I came from a very small public high school in Southern Illinois where no one really goes away to school. So I not only went away, but went to Notre Dame and just got hammered. I mean, kids had AP credit, and I only knew that as a college football poll. I didn't know that that was a thing for schools. Like my school didn't have that. And so like my senior year was the first year my high school had calculus,
Oh,
and we had to
wow.
fight for it. And there were 7 of us in the class. And it was just that's what I came from. So yeah, going to Notre Dame, I just got hammered. And so my end of my first semester, the final exam in physics, there was a question about a frog on a disc in the middle of the woods, and it's spinning at this rate, and the frog weighs this much and jumps off at this angle. What happens to the rate of the disc? And I remember out loud saying, "Who cares? Like, who cares? Like, this is crazy." And so I turned it in my blue book, those blue books where you had to, and so I turned in my blue book and I was like, I'm out. And I went right to the counselor and was like, I need to go to business because I don't get what this is. I think it's make believe. And so, so then I went into business. Sophomore year is kind of a little bit of everything: finance, IT, and then marketing, and then accounting. And then at the end of your sophomore year was, what's the job I can get with the lowest GPA? And accounting. Okay, sweet. And and also too, accounting is that benchmark that, or the foundation of all the other ones. So really, by choosing accounting, I wasn't really making a final choice. I was
Yeah.
just picking accounting. Oh, I can do finance later. I can do marketing later. I can go into, at the time it was MIS, Management Information Systems. I can go into that too, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to know financials and dollars. So that's how I got into accounting, man. I tripped over everything and then ended up in it. So yeah, I never thought I'd be an accountant ever. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
No, I think that is a very interesting turn of events, which I think
Yeah.
it sets us up for, like you and I talked before about when you went into PwC. And I love when you talked about how the comedy started to come into play. So can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, I already know, but can you tell the audience a
Sure.
little bit about that?
Oh, totally. Yeah, because you can't just tease at the opener. Oh, he does comedy. Like, wait, what? Like, get to that, Terrell. Like, hurry up. Azores, whatever. Who cares? Like D in physics. Yeah. So I started at PwC. I was in a rotational program. So every 3 to 6 months, we would have a different training to go into a different advisory services. So basically, not audit, not tax. So internal audit, merger acquisition type stuff, computer controls, things like that, all the cool forward thinking things. And so we had a training in Los Angeles, Pasadena for 4 weeks. And so every Thursday, Whose Line Is It Anyway was pretty big at the time. And they would record their show in studio, and then they would go down to the Improv on Melrose to just perform 45 minutes uncensored in a tiny room, a tiny comedy club room. And so it was awesome. And so before and after, we're stand-up comedians, kind of a 3-hour show, 15-minute sets. And some of them were unbelievably hilarious, people you'd seen on TV, and then some were not that funny. And I was like, well, I could be as not funny as that guy, like, and this is Hollywood. And yeah, so I went back to St. Louis, where I lived at the time, and grabbed a legal pad out of the office supply closet and started just jotting down ideas of things I think are funny, clean, observational kind of stuff. Yeah, and went to the Funny Bone in Westport Plaza on February 1st, 2000. It was my first time on stage. And yeah, did 5 minutes, and it actually went really well, especially for first time. And then the second time I realized the hard way, I learned that strangers don't go along with you on tangents. So you got to get to the punchline, right? Your friends will come along and they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember you were. Strangers are like, forget it. Like, I forget what you were talking about. I'm 3 drinks in, just get to the funny, like make it simple, clear, concise communication. Yeah. So then just kept doing stand-up just for fun on the side. And then kind of had a little bit of a perfect storm happen where I was in corporate, and a new manager was brought in who we did not get along very well. And he kind of micromanaged and treated me like a toddler. So then I would act like a toddler, and I would like, my favorite was he would hover, those kind of managers where they give you something to work on and then they hover. And so I had ESPN's website minimized on my computer. And every time I'd see him come out of his office, I would just bring it up on my monitor. So every time he walked by my cube, I had ESPN up every single time. And yet my work was always done. It was always done well. I always did a great job. But every time he would come to watch me, I was reading ESPN all the time. And he lost his mind. He lost his mind, and we just didn't get along. So I was like, you know what, I'm out. And I'm going to see what happens. And so I just decided to give comedy a go. And yeah, I've been doing it full time since May of 2005. And then
Wow.
yeah, comedy album on Sirius XM and Pandora now, and wrote 2 Emmy-nominated award shows, opened for Louis Anderson in Atlantic City, hung out with Leno and Seinfeld. And in New York City, you see, Gaffigan and Chris Rock and Louis C.K. and like all those, comedians, Jeff Ross. You're following them, you're on the show with them, so and then all the people that I'm also friends with that no one's heard of, unfortunately, but they're just as funny, for sure. So yeah.
Gotcha. No, because that stands out to me, because there's something about like comedians, like some people ask me like, what do you do to get ready for a presentation, or if you're giving a speech? And one of the things that I've kind of told people is like, I just I study really good comedians, because I'm like, the way that a comedian has to be able to set the story up, set the stage, and hit you at a punchline. It's just like, it is a skill that, that takes practice. So I guess, how did you find marrying the two together? With your skill for comedy and then also being able to speak in the professional setting or at conferences and stuff.
Well, even when I was working as a CPA, just being clear with communication, just trim the fat is the phrase in comedy of, can you tell the joke the same way without that line? Or maybe is there a shorter word? Or sometimes there's a cadence to things too. There's a rhythm. Certain syllables are funnier than others. Certain numbers are funnier than others. Maybe it needs a 3-syllable word instead of a 2-syllable word or whatever. And, now I've been on stage over 2,000 times. So, you're definitely got the reps in, and it definitely plays out in just being clear and concise, and pretty much the exact opposite of how I answered that question is pretty much what's. No, I'm kidding. No, but it definitely plays out that way. But it also gives you confidence. It gives you confidence to be like, hey, I've told jokes to complete strangers in front of a room of, like opening for the band Train was over 3,000 people. And so, doing a boardroom of 8, who cares? Like whatever. Although the smaller audiences are actually harder because you could see everybody's faces. If you get half the room to laugh and it's 8 people, that's 4. If you get half of 3,000 to laugh, it still sounds like 3,000. Like it's still a lot, and so it's but it definitely gives you that confidence too of just, I'm good at this. And, it just exercises a new muscle that maybe not everybody has. And so when it's go time, all right, yeah, I can do this. And, having a sense of humor too made me super relatable as an auditor. When I do internal audit or even merger acquisition work, you're going into a company that's being acquired, and having a little bit of a sense of humor there and being able to break the ice and, actually get to know people a little bit better is definitely helped out in the long run.
Gotcha. No, I mean, you speak of like developing that muscle. I mean, whenever you speak at like, I say, professional events and stuff like that, or trainings, I guess, are there ever any of the attendees that hear like, hey, he has an accounting background, maybe I can do the comedy thing like him as well?
Oh yeah. That, I definitely get that. And, and maybe you can. I mean, there's a good buddy of mine, Greg Kite. It's an he's a controller for a doctor group in Utah, and then he does stand up as well. And that's the thing is, people that come to me and they're like, hey, I want to quit my job and go do something full time. No, do not do that. Do not do that. Like, just trust me, do not do that. Like, it's way too hard and scary and crazy on this side. Do not do it. Like, keep it as a side hobby, because let's face it, you're probably not that good at it. I mean, to make a living, like, you have to be really good. And I was super lucky, caught some breaks along the way, and was able to reach escape velocity, I guess, to get out of Earth's orbit. But it's not for everybody. And having it as an though, as a side hobby, or just a thing that you explore and you enjoy doing, that's fantastic. And it just gives you something to focus on different than work, when you need that break, when you need just something else to go do, definitely.
Gotcha. And so you mentioned the word, that's their and having an and. So I think you teased
sorry.
us enough with the what's your and. So I want to talk about that next. So,
Right.
I mean, your book, I picked it up, what's your and then, being on your podcast as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, so what's your and is basically, like, the best example is, when I speak and do the consulting, there's quite a bit of travel involved, less obviously during some of the pandemic months, but it's picking up. And and so when I'm on an airplane, I don't necessarily like to talk to people a lot. I just let's just get there. And so whenever people would ask me, hey, what do you do? And if I said, oh, I'm a speaker and a comedian, oh, let me tell you who my favorite comedian is. And I would go, let me guess, not John Garrett. And they'd be like, how'd you know? And then they would go on and on and on about somebody. But if they say, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm an accountant, they put on those noise canceling headphones. Like, there's no follow-up question. They're like done. Like, even if they're also an accountant, they're like, you know what? I don't want to talk about that because that's not interesting. And so it's kind of, that's where the genuine relationships, those follow-up questions, those interesting conversations happen when you share that. And at the time I was an accountant and a comedian. The comedian side is where conversation happens, and me talking about comedy, you light up. You can hear it in people's tone of voice. You can see it in their eyes. There's color suddenly, and it's just more interesting and fascinating. There's that pattern interrupt of, we've all met a billion bankers or lawyers or accountants or what have you, white collar nerds of all kind like me. But then all of a sudden that and pops in. It's like, oh, wow. Okay. Follow-up question. Let's hear more about this, and it's different than your why. That's always family for everybody for whatever reason. even though it maybe shouldn't be by definition, but your and is parallel to that. And so it's just, what do you love to do when you're not working? You know, those outside of work hobbies and passions and interests.
Gotcha. And now, so you have a podcast around that. You have a book around that. How was the journey with that podcast? And like, some of the, how interesting is it to hear so many different people's story about their and?
Yeah, it's actually really cool because it started. I was speaking at a huge conference for the AICPA, about 900 people, getting ready to go on stage, and it's kind of like that, that Eminem getting, like you get in the moment, like you're getting ready to jump into a rap battle or speak to 900 accountants. Either way, same thing. And so the meeting professional comes up and she's like, "Hey, do you know this guy named Mark, whatever his last name was?" And I was like, "No, I never heard that guy in my life." And she goes, "Well, he knows you." He said, "I know John Garrett. That's the guy who did comedy at night." I was
Wow.
like, "What? Who is this Rain Man? Like, what is happening?" And so I did the research. He was in my first PwC office 12 years before that. And he was in tax. I don't even know how taxes work. So I never worked with him. I never went to that floor. So yeah, 12 years later, he remembered me. And so I was like, well, am I the only one who had a hobby? Because it's easy to remember one person. But then I started talking to people, and it's no, actually my own research is 92% of professionals have that outside of work hobby or interest. 92%. Wow. And so I started just wanting to share those stories because no one's talking about them. People listening right now, do you know that 92% of your coworkers or clients or customers have an outside of work hobby or interest? Like 92%, that's almost all of them. I mean, the auditor in me is immaterial difference. It's 100%. Like, just round up. Like, but it's like, we all have it, but we're not talking about it. We're not sharing it. So that's where originally it was the Green Apple podcast, where it was and just sharing people's outside of work interests, and then how does that make you better at your job? And it's just sharing. And then episode 200 rebranded to What's Your And it's just so cool. I mean, just people that everything from a guy that played minor league baseball for a couple of years to somebody who designs custom suits and gets them made and tailored and then brings them back, and to somebody that does a 5K walk once a year for Susan G. Komen charity, or somebody likes to make kombucha or do stained glass art. Like, what? Who does stained glass? I thought it just showed up at a store. Like, I didn't know that. Like your grandma's house. Like, I don't know where stained glass comes from. I thought it grows on trees. I don't know. But just cool people that are doing all these different things. And you don't have to be good at it. It's just, I enjoy gardening. Do you ever get anything to produce? No, but who cares? Like, you enjoy it, I enjoy college football. I enjoy ice cream. I enjoy, performing comedy. Was I good at it? Not for a long time. You're not. I mean, it's hard, but you enjoy it. And it doesn't matter. You're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for other people's approval or even for money. So it doesn't matter if you're good.
Awesome. Now, so where can people find the podcast, and where can they find your book on that?
Yeah, I made it super easy. It's just whatsyourand.com. Whatsyourand.com. The podcast is on one half the page, the book's on the other half the page. And there you go. It's super easy. The book's also available from there. You can get the links to barnesandnoble.com, Bookshop, Amazon, all the .coms. It's available there. And then the Audible version will be out first quarter of 2021. So for the listeners of the podcast, there you go. So,
now, for the Audible version, are you going to be narrating it, or will you have another reader?
Well, I was hoping that you would do it, but but I guess the way you asked that, I guess I'll have to do it myself then. Fine. Yeah, it'll be me. I figured, why not? I have a unique enough voice, plus people have heard it and are pretty familiar with it. It is funny. I'm sure you get it too. When people who listen to just the audio, when they meet you, I've actually had people say, it's so weird hearing your voice come out of your face. And I think that's a compliment. I don't know. Are you hitting on me? What's going on right now? Or am I supposed to cry? I don't know what my reaction is, but it's the way it is now, I guess. Yeah.
Gotcha. I have had people tell me like when they actually do meet me in person, they're like, I had something different pictured in my head. I'm like, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Right? Different good or different bad? Like, what the hell? That's crazy. Or I get all the time, because I'm almost 6'3", is, wow, you're a lot taller than your headshot. Well, yeah, that's like here. Like, it goes to like not even like the middle of my torso. Like, how would you know? Like, how would you, what? Like, that's hilarious. Yeah. Just the things that people say. And I mean, doing comedy full time for, gosh, almost 10 years or more, actually. Like, the things people say to you after something, I mean, they want to talk to you, but then the words that come out of their mouth, it's like, just go back out, come back and try again. Like, that was not like, what was that? Yeah. I mean, it's similar to people that meet you. Wow, I had something different picture. No, just go back and try again. I'm going to act like that didn't happen. And then, like, think it through, people, before you say something. I know you want to say something because you in a nice way, but then the words come out and you're like, oh God, what was that? Like, never mind. So you just, after you hear it enough, you're just like, oh, thanks. All right, great. You just assume the best, I guess.
Yep. No, I definitely agree on that one. Now, if people are looking for the comedy and they're looking for, the speaking engagements, kind of what you're up to next, where can they go to find that online or on social media?
Yeah. I mean, thejohngarrett.com takes you, what's your and.com and the John Garrett all go to the same website, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, the John Garrett, there's a billion John Garretts, and there's some John Garrett that grabbed johngarrett.com and he's not even using it. And I wake up in the middle of the night yelling at, but yeah, so it's thejohngarrett.com, just so then I could one up him. And then and on there I have some music video parodies that I do as well, just for fun on the side. And then some of my stand-up clips are on there as well. And when I did radio for doing comedy club appearances and stuff. And then and then, like I said, Sirius and Pandora have my comedy album still in rotation. So even one of my jokes was, I just saw recently, is a meme where I was like, what? Did put my name on it? Like, come on now. I had this joke about how the McRib is the deadbeat dad of the fast food sandwiches, because it's gone for 6 months and comes back for only a week, and we're supposed to be excited about it. And it was a meme. And I was like, what? That's awesome. And then put my name. Come on now. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it's cool. And it's cool doing some of the video pieces that are just kind of funny and different and entertaining. So if you need a break, music video parodies, they're highly produced and, professionally shot and all that. So I try to, keep things on the up and up, similar to what you do, Terrell. So.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, definitely before we wrap up, one question I like to ask every guest that comes on is like, when you think about, the uniqueness of your career and your journey and your business and, all the interviews, the show that you do, what's 2 pieces of advice that you would share with other business owners?
Yeah, I guess the first piece of advice is don't listen to advice. I mean, if you don't want it, don't take it. I mean, especially unsolicited. Oh, yeah. I mean, and then the second thing would be, don't take advice, especially from people that aren't doing it. And there are so many people out there that claim to be consultants or specialists or whatever, and their business is terrible. Hey, I'm going to help your business 10x. Well, how about you 1x your own business before you come over here and wreck mine? I mean, it's crazy what people like. Well, I've bankrupted 7 companies, so I'm going to just be a consultant and go yours. No, like, do not. So, don't take advice from people that aren't successful. And number 2, if somebody gives you advice and you don't like it, then don't do it. I mean, it's that easy. I mean, I don't know. Like, that's my go-to, because so many people give me, especially after you speak at conferences or, or whatever. Oh, let me tell you what, no, I don't care. I can't go back in time and redo it, like, it's already happened. And, I mean, thanks, I guess. I mean, if I hear it enough, maybe I'll think about it, but, I'm in the moment, I can tell. And, get advice from people that are successful. And then if you don't like the advice, then don't do it. I mean, that's I don't know if you've ever gotten those answers. Those are probably like the best non-answers ever, but
No, I think that's actually a great answer, because I've noticed that a lot of people that I've talked to, especially when it comes down to business owners, where they're like, this person said I should do this person, and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, what were you gonna do before you heard any of that? And they were like, well, I
right.
had this plan. I was gonna do this, this, and this. And I'm just like, so you traded a plan for no plan, and now you're just stuck. Yeah, that's not a good place to be in.
No, that person just wrecked you and you paid them. It's like, what? It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, as long as one step at a time, just one step at a time, 1 inch at a time, 1 yard at a time, just keep moving forward. That's for sure. That'd be some actual genuine advice and if you don't want to take that, then maybe just don't have a job, it's like, because I mean, that's pretty generic and spreads over everyone. But yeah, just keep moving forward,
Absolutely. Well, John, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your journey, what you're up to now, and we'll definitely share the link so people can check you out. And definitely, I will say, I'm actually reading John's book, and I will say it is definitely a good book, because it really does give you a chance to, see yourself as more than just what you do at work. And I will say a good recommendation: if you can figure out how to get that book to your boss, it would be a great Christmas gift.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And just sneak it in anonymously, or use somebody else's name. Use Terrell's name, and then yeah. But it definitely impacts leaders and all the way down to interns and college graduates, for sure. So thanks, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, John.
Absolutely. This has been a blast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like our content, be sure to follow us on social media. And if you want to see more of our exclusive content, you can subscribe and become a member on patreon.com/Business Talk Library. Hey, the Business Talk Library is the place where business makes sense.